from a communication standpoint. But the one thing that I must say, I'm in self-quarantine day 13 in Colchester, Ontario, and along with my husband, Nick, who you'll hear from in a few minutes. But I've never been more connected, and that's been to Rotarians and to friends and to family around the world. And that's one of the gifts that our organization provides to us, is the ultimate connectivity. And, you know, I've been talking with friends in different countries. I mean, because Rotary, I'm able to, in real time, connect with my friend Alberto in Italy to find out exactly what's going on and the grants that they're seeking money for ventilators in real time in a country that is in incredible crisis, having surpassed the amount of fatalities that China has faced. I've seen posts on Facebook from people who are sewing face masks out of material to try and fill the void that exists in so many of our communities. We've seen people doing all sorts of acts of kindness for their neighbors and reaching out. You know, one of the opportunities out of this, and I don't think this needs to be right now about membership, it needs to be about support and about service. And membership, I think, will come from this because people are going to see the good things that we're doing, the good natured human beings that we are, making sure that our communities and our world are taken care of. And so reaching out to our neighbors at this time to make sure that everyone is taken care of and not falling through the cracks, that's what Rotary does at its very best. And you know, I know that one of the things that we're all sort of grappling with right now is, with an aging membership in our organization, how do we make sure that those folks are participating in some of these calls? This is my third Zoom meeting I've done this week, and it's a great way for us to stay connected right now because we need this. We need human connection and interaction. I was corresponding with one of the staff members at Rotary yesterday, Peggy, and she said something really, really amazing. And as I talk about our aging demographic, this is really relevant. She talked about how she called to check in on her 91-year-old mom and how her mom said, "I got to call you right back. I'm on a Zoom call." Now, that's delightful. And that's exactly what this opportunity right now might present for us, is to reach out to members of our own clubs who maybe aren't so technology savvy and help walk them through how to get on a call like this. Because in the weeks to come, and I sadly think that it's going to be weeks where we're going to be having this kind of interface right now in the short term. I dare say I think we're going to do a lot more of this in the future as we move forward. But in the short term, let's try and get some of those folks to be able to meet. And it may actually inform how our own clubs move forward in the future. I was reflecting upon this yesterday and thinking, gosh, with my own club, which is a Tuesday lunch club, which, you know, carves out an hour and a half to 2 hours in your day, wouldn't it be nice if we actually met by Zoom for meetings sometime, maybe a lot of time, and then get together for our service work? Wouldn't that be sort of a creative outcome that could come out of this? Rotary is really looking at a lot of different ways for us to do our Rotary business differently, different club models, different club types. And I do want to call out right now, I'm going to ask someone to join me on the window of time that I've been allocated to just give us a little bit of an update. Jeffrey Cataray, who is one of our sitting Rotary International directors. I want to talk with you, Jeffrey, just a little bit about membership, because nothing is off the table at this moment in terms of looking at different ways of doing our business. Jeffrey, what is it that you guys are talking about, aside from COVID-19 right now, about membership and how we can do it better and how we can do it differently?
Thanks, Jennifer. Hi, everybody. Good to see so many familiar faces here this morning. I do think, by the way, that this is a silver lining in all of this. I've been on like a dozen Zoom calls this week, more than I've ever been on in my life. But clubs are engaging using this technology, and they never thought they would. So I think that's a plus in all of this. Unfortunate that we had to be at this place in order to do it. We had our first virtual board meeting as a board on Wednesday morning on a platform called Kudo, which allows for simultaneous interpretation. That's how the April board meeting is going to occur also. And just last night, we formed a board WhatsApp group with the president and the president-elect There was a lot of tutoring going on with that. But that's so that we can stay connected in real time, every day, every moment, being able to update each other, ask questions, because we're all getting lots of questions from all over the place. We've had cancellations galore. All kinds of events are being canceled, including Hawaii Convention. And so, but as Jennifer said, we can't let Rotary go dark around the world. We can't let clubs go dark. And many of them are. They're just saying, well, we're canceled and we'll see you in a couple of months. In a couple of months, they won't have a club. So what we're trying to do is use this technology to help to tutor folks from a generation that may not be that familiar with Zoom and LinkedIn and GoToMeeting, to help them to get connected and stay connected. We are now doing in zones 28 and 32, starting next Thursday night, Valerie Wafer, my successor, and I will be meeting with all of our DGs and all of our DGEs every other week to stay connected, to talk about best practices, to talk about challenges. So as Jennifer said, we're almost more connected now than we used to be. And so maybe this is a silver lining in all of this. I think that what I've been saying to people is that clearly people are disappointed. Mark's disappointed that he had to cancel the convention along with the board. Governors are disappointed that they had to cancel their conferences. There's all kinds of disappointment around. And my mantra is, let's turn that disappointment into determination. And that determination has to be that we need to come out of this whenever this pandemic wanes, whether it's 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We need to come out of this with an organization that isn't decimated, but that is stronger. And Jennifer, my last point will be, clearly when the pandemic is over, the economic impact will not be. Not just people in your community, but people in your Rotary clubs who will have lost their businesses or lost their jobs. And the economic impact is going to go far beyond this. And we need to figure out ways to make Rotary doable in this aftermath, which will be the economic impact of this around the globe, so that we can stay viable as an organization. I'll stop there, Jen, and I will tell you that the board, the reason we started that WhatsApp group is because we just can't wait till our April meeting. We need to be in touch with each other every single day, real time. Unfortunately, that real time, because we're a global board, my phone dings at like 3 o'clock in the morning because somebody just got up with an idea. We need to figure out a way to kind of mute all of that. But from the board's perspective, we are staying in touch real time, every day, moment to moment, to share with each other what we need to do to help all of us to stay connected and engaged so that we can come out of this on the other side, so that Grow Rotary doesn't take a backseat to a pandemic. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Very grateful for all of the time and effort that you guys are putting in to making sure that we're moving forward. And one of the things that we've been talking about, certainly at the council for several years and at board meetings, is how do we become more nimble? How do we respond to things in real time? And this is something that is teaching us in real time exactly how to do it. And I think we have a new business model moving forward. And we need Rotarians to know that. So I hope that you guys are going to communicate that out, that what it is that you're doing. I think that, you know, on calls like this, it's great for Rotarians to be able to hear exactly what's going on. And hopefully the rest of the Rotary world can hear that message too. There's another gentleman that I'd like to call in right now, and that's Haresh Ramchandani from Jamaica. I know Bruce introduced you as a sitting director, and I know that one day that will be probably what we're going to see. Not quite yet. Haresh is one of our wonderful past district governors, and he was slated to be the president's representative actually at our district conference in District 6400, and we were really looking forward Sparky's. I'm sorry, to Sparky's. We were really looking forward to welcoming you to this area of the world. But Haresh, maybe, you know, you're in Jamaica. So what's going on there? How are people, how's Rotary functioning in your part of the world right now?
Thanks, Jennifer, and good morning, everybody, or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. So Jamaica is very fragile right now. Most of the Rotary clubs have switched to an online model like Zoom. There's been some concerns that as not just Rotary clubs and Rotarians, but also other organizations switch, uh, Zoom, it may crash. They may not have the bandwidth or the capacity for it. So we've been discussing in our several clubs here of looking at other platforms to give us support in case one goes down. So we've made a list of, obviously, go to meeting, but WebEx Cisco has giving 3 months free now. Microsoft has created a more robust version of Teams, and we're looking at that as well. There's of course Google Hangouts, and a while ago I just made a note of the one you just mentioned, Trudeau, I think, that's doing simultaneous board. We're going to explore that as well. From a country point of view, we have 19 cases and we are on complete lockdown. The government shut the doors, they closed the borders, nobody in, nobody out, which creates a major damper because tourism is our biggest income earner. And tens of thousands are now without a job. Hotels have shuttered their doors, and we are concerned as a country that in the next 2 to 4 weeks, if this continues, because the majority of those that are employed in the force are on paycheck to paycheck basis. And they can stretch 2, maybe 3, 4 weeks at the most. But after that, we're concerned about looting and anarchy and riots that could take place. And from what we're hearing, this thing could stretch out for a lot longer. So we're wondering what the plan is going to be from the government. So we have started connecting as Rotarians, reaching out to those that can make those decisions on what is the plan. Because it cannot continue like this. And we know that as a country, we're so fragile, it cannot continue like this. So this is what we're trying to figure out. Prior to this pandemic, our healthcare system was weak, to be conservative. In fact, our regional public hospital was actually closed because infrastructure had a lot of challenges. So they've been working out of tents to begin with. So the concern is that if we get an overflow right here, everything will collapse. Everything will collapse. And so there's so much tension, you can just imagine, of how everyone is feeling right now. What is going to happen? There is no answer. Nobody can leave either to go to other areas. We've got to make this work where we are. So there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of stress. Many of our club members have started feeling depression. We've been trying to talk to them. It's not easy. There's no silver lining I'm not seeing right now until we can get a solution to how we're going to get past this. But overall, we're trying to keep up the spirits, keep connecting with each other, I think is one of the best ways we can do. Some of our club members have started small projects in their neighborhoods, going to those that are elderly and seeing if they need help, if they need supplies. Okay, you stay put. We'll go to the supermarket and to the market for you. I ventured to the market yesterday and nobody's keeping social distance. In fact, some of the guys that were there were telling me, listen, I don't care. We have to live. So we're going to take our chances with this pandemic. So it's so scary that the social distancing is not being practiced widespread, even though the government has said you have to do this. So I hope that wasn't too depressive for you. We're going to keep our spirits alive and we'll see how we get past this. But that's where we are right now.
Thank you, Haresh. One of the things that you did mention that I think is really important for us to realize is that as Rotarians, we have a loud voice and that we are very connected, and we are connected to the decision makers of our countries. And I'm very glad to hear that Rotary in Jamaica is reaching out and talking with your government officials. I know that our good friend Joe Oden, who is a district governor in Nairobi, I saw his post yesterday that they have a national response team that they formed that's working directly with the governor or the government in Kenya. Likewise, talking with Past Rotary International President Ravi Ravindran, he's leading the charge in Sri Lanka, working directly with the president of his country, and they're making big strides in being able to protect some of the most vulnerable there. So Rotarians have a voice. We have a loud voice, and we need to be making sure that we're exercising that right now. Obviously, in the short term right now, we're more concerned about making sure that we're all safe. And I know that in my own community, when I went to bed last night in Windsor, Ontario, the news media at 11, I checked before I went to sleep, and our first case was identified here in our city. It's going to become more real and more real for so many of us in the days and immediate weeks to come, because we're going to start seeing cases. We know that testing hasn't been done in Folsom, and there's lots of people out there who are carriers who don't even yet know it. So it is going to be a very challenging time. I want to flip the switch just for 1 second to say that there are, and this is, I'm going to go humorous for a second, hopefully. There are a number of different Rotary clubs that are trying out different models right now, and one of them is a cocktail club. And I just want to point out what's in behind Haresh right now. And I think that when all of this is said and done, Haresh, we're going to come to your place so that you can host a very lovely cocktail party, and we can help support the economy of Jamaica. I think that sounds like a good idea. So Bruce and Sue, I know that we have some medical experts who are, one of which is sitting next to me, who are going to give us a little bit of an update on COVID and where we stand right now. So let me conclude with thanking everyone on the call for what it is that you're doing to help your neighbors, your family. Please stay safe. And let me turn it over to you, Bruce, and you can introduce our next guests.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Jennifer. We've had some other folks join us. We'll acknowledge them in a little bit. And we do want to leave some time at the end of this if people have questions or comments that they'd like to make. Haresh, it wasn't too depressing what you said. It was realistic. And I think we have to try and stay positive and stay optimistic, but we also have to be realistic, because putting our heads in the sand is not a solution to this, as I think every government around the world in one shape or form is now discovering. We're all in this together. Rotary International has never meant so much. So we wanted to get the medical focus on this, and somebody who always manages to keep a sense of humor, actually two people that I know that can be realistic and yet be really, really funny, are Jennifer's husband, Nick Krajicic, who's a family physician specializing in geriatrics in the Windsor, Ontario area, and Rajan Chetty is with us as well. So Nick, I'm going to let you and Rajan kind of take the next segment and kind of talk about where you see this going. Rajan, of course, a cardiologist, you can give him a little further introduction, but thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Good morning. Thanks for having us on, Rajan and I think the technical information and what to do about it, hygiene, was already well described by Sue earlier this morning. Although certainly in my own practice, 30 years of practicing family medicine, I've never seen anything like this. Of course, I didn't live through the polio era, but it's interesting. There are some similarities, and there's a very interesting article in USA Today on the similarities and differences actually between polio and what's going on right now with COVID-19. Anyway, from our point of view in my practice, as of Monday, we actually are not seeing any patients physically any further. We are doing all telemedicine consults. We are contacting every patient by telephone or FaceTime or video conference, and we're trying to keep ourselves safe, our staff safe, and more importantly, our patients and the community safe. And actually, our patients are very grateful for it. And interestingly enough, we talk about technology, and Jeffrey had mentioned that. It's working very well. The patients are actually very grateful. And I would say we can handle probably 80 to 90% of people's issues by telephone and faxing in their prescriptions, faxing in their x-ray requisitions, laboratory requisitions, emailing consultations, etc. And I think the future for medicine, as well as Rotary, interestingly enough, is going to be using technology. I mean, people can access their blood pressures via their cell phones now, their pulse, their heart rate. I see shortly there'll be attachments for smartphones that will act as a stethoscope. We'll have attachments that we could probably look in people's ears, etc. And I sense, if from an economic perspective, we'll save huge amounts of money doing virtual medicine and probably only examining people when absolutely necessary. And I think people will save money by not leaving their work, saving money on time spent in the office, etc. Given that, though, most of the phone calls, there's a tremendous amount of anxiety out there, COVID-19 anxiety, as everyone has clearly expressed in our speakers thus far. And I think those things mentioned by Sue and others are extremely important for people to remember, to keep themselves healthy, both mentally and physically. So like Sue said, going for walks, but I think mentally it's very important because I don't see this virus going away anywhere soon. As a matter of fact, I think we won't have any information, at least for the next 4 to 8 weeks, if not more, to get this under control, especially if we look at the lag time in countries that are well ahead of us in cases, such as Italy and China. China took at least 3 months to sort of settle or flatten the curve. And you're looking at a country that's a communist country who can lock down their population with much more ease than we can in democratic societies. So I really encourage people to keep themselves mentally fit, go out for walks, do some meditation, praying, whatever you may find. It's extremely important to keep your mental health in check and to support your fellow Rotarians and your fellow people in your community and your family. Interesting corollaries about polio. Back in the 40s and 50s, before we had a vaccine, you look out about it, people were staying home, they were scared for their children, they weren't letting them go out in public, out to the swimming pools, etc. In that respect, for COVID-19, we flip it a little bit because the worry and the population at risk is more of our elderly. So we see people's children, admonishing their parents not to go out, practicing good hygiene, stay isolated, because those are the people that are really going to get ill with this virus. And I think just like polio before the vaccine, this is going to become something of the past as well. But we're still looking at 1 year to 18 months before a vaccine is produced. And there are several companies around the globe that are working day and night to develop this vaccine. And I have no doubt we will have it. It's just a matter of when. And I know the rush is on to do that. There are some, I think maybe if there's time, Bruce and Sue, we can open it up at the end to questions, because there's a lot we can talk about medically. There are treatments that are off-label thus far for COVID-19 that maybe people aren't aware of as of yet. I just had an article sent to me by the president of the Rotarian Physician Fellowship, and in China and Hong Kong, they are using 2 drugs off-label, which are easily available in North America, the Caribbean, and Europe. And if I get a case of COVID-19, I will probably prescribe them. And those medications are azithromycin, which is an antibiotic called Z-Pak or Z-Pak. And there's another one we use for malaria, and we also use it in rheumatoid arthritis, called Plaquenil, which is called hydroxychloroquine. These are off-label, but I think they will be probably okayed for on-label use very shortly for this disease, because in Hong Kong and China, they are proving to actually reduce, if not cure, this disease in very, very small trials. So we can't say 100% sure, because the clinical trials haven't been large enough or long enough. But those are 2 very interesting developments coming out of the medical front. So anyway, with that, I think probably more beneficial at the end if it's open to questions for people, but I'll hand it over to Dr. Chetty if that's okay with you, Bruce and Sue. So thanks for your time. Stay safe.
Good morning, everybody. So one of the things I didn't realize is I've actually had COVID-19 in my house for the last several years. So this is a model of COVID-19. It's actually my dog's toy. But it actually will show you a 3D model of what the virus is like. So basically it's a ball with spikes above. Now I think most of us kind of have become de facto epidemiologists and virologists based on media information lately. So I'm sure I don't want to spend a lot of time telling you things you've already learned about from the media. But very briefly, this virus is an RNA-based virus. So essentially viruses just have a coat and there's genetic material inside. And the only job of the virus is to get into some cell of a living organism and make more viruses. It's very simple. The virus is not malicious. It doesn't hate you. It just wants to make more viruses, and it needs your typically lung tissue because it's the easiest way to enter a living organism. And it needs the cells in your lungs to just make more viruses. That's really all it wants to do. The other thing is the virus is not entirely uniform. So there are slight variations in the virus, and viruses know that, or no, they don't know because they don't think, but very, very lethal viruses don't survive. So if a virus gets into a living organism and it kills every host, the virus will die out because all the hosts will be dead. So as this virus kind of evolves in a population, the most lethal forms of it will die out. The forms of it that are going to survive, the forms of the coronavirus that will reproduce but leave their hosts alive so that they can spread the virus to other hosts and make more viruses, because from a virus point of view, that's the most successful virus there is. So I think as time goes on, we'll see the mortality go down, but the infections rise. I just have one other graphic that I wanted to show you, and this is talking about testing. So everybody's talking about testing and various governments' failure and getting tests and why can't I get a test and I want to get a test. Well, let me tell you, you don't want to get a test because this is what's involved in getting the test. That's how far up your nose the little swab has to go. It's not just in the nostrils. It goes all the way to the back of your throat. So, because it's a nasopharyngeal swab and the pharynx is in the back of your throat. So the swab has to go all that way down. So all these people, you know, they read my Facebook comments, everybody's chomping at the bit to get a test. You do not want to get a test. Your best defense as of now is to avoid getting infected, which is social distancing and just staying home. The other thing I want to say is it looks like Canada may be turning the curve. We have 1,000 cases as of last night and about, what was it, 13 deaths. So things are looking somewhat more promising here. And that's pretty much all I really wanted to say from the medical point of view. Like Nick said, there are potentially promising treatments, but we don't know several things about them. We don't know doses, and we, you know, remdesivir is another medication that you may have heard about that's made by Gilead Pharmaceuticals. Again, I think the CDC is doing the right thing by doing these things in trials. We need to test several thousand patients and then see what's going on. The other issue is everybody's like, why can't we just make a vaccine? The issue with the vaccines are now available and they're in testing, but we need to have people get the vaccine now, and we have to wait about a year to make sure there's no serious side effects, to make sure that people can make antibodies before we can then release the virus, the vaccine out into the general public. Because the last thing you want to do is have a toxic vaccine that's released into the public. So those are the general comments that I wanted to make from a medical point of view. And like Nick said, happy to take questions about it if anybody has any.
Thank you so much, Rajan. I was wondering, Nick, if you turn your mic on, or if Rajan, you heard the list. We've been asked what the list was again of the medications that perhaps could help minimize the symptoms, if you will. I think you said a Z-Pak antibiotic was one, and I can't remember what the others were.
Yeah, the other ones were malarial drugs. So what they're using off-label, there are two of them. One is called hydroxychloroquine, or its brand name is called Plaquenil. And the other one they've been using is chloroquine, but they've been finding that the hydroxychloroquine is more effective than chloroquine if you can get it.
Is this,
And then, so the antiviral medications, so there's basically drugs that were developed for HIV/AIDS, and that's ritonavir, R-I-T-O-N-I-V-I-R. So they all end in VIR. And then one that was developed for Ebola. So that's the one that people think are quite promising because the safety tests have already been done on remdesivir. And that looks like it might, because the Ebola virus and the coronavirus are very similar, people are thinking that remdesivir, which works for Ebola and is safe for Ebola, may be possible to work for corona. But again, these things need to be tested. We need to find the right doses and rule out toxicities, but they are being currently tested in Seattle, I believe, Seattle, and then the vaccine has just started testing in Minneapolis.
okay, thank you both of you so much. We had one other person join us that I wanted to introduce, and her name is is Valerie Wafer. She's our Rotary International Director-elect for what will be the new Zone 28. And Valerie, I don't know if you want to bring any kind of greetings or maybe share some personal reflection and thoughts as well regarding what is going on today in our world. And I'll unmute you.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, my internet is a bit spotty. Can you hear me?
And thank you. I'm sorry to put you on the
Hang on one second.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Valerie. I just thought I would give you an opportunity to say hello. While she's getting herself reconnected, does anybody have any questions or thoughts that they would like to share at this time? I'm going to unmute everybody, or if I don't unmute you, if you would just unmute yourself while you're speaking, and just give a chance for Valerie to get her technology worked out. Yes, I see one person from 6380 raising their hand.
Hey everybody, how are you? So nice to see this forum work. I've done a couple of Zoom, Facebook Lives, and I would really recommend that we all continue to keep in touch. I think what's very important right now is to make sure that we check in on people. I've recommended to all 1,600 members of our district to make at least 5 calls per day. Call a friend, call somebody you haven't talked to in a long time, call a neighbor, just so that they can feel that they're not alone. We will get through this. I think many of us are doing the very same thing, and that's self-isolating for our own health, but also for the health of others. We've been using Zoom quite a bit. We've had assistant governor calls the other day. We have a president's call coming up on Monday. And you know, one of the things we've often heard is that not all members are on Facebook. It just seems like Facebook is likely the best forum and the most affordable for most people. So we really need to encourage all of our members to create a Facebook page, and all of our clubs to create a Facebook page. I think that's one way that we can keep in touch. I've seen some really great ideas. One of our members who's doing some homeschooling decided that for the next 14 days, they're going to visit 14 different countries. They're going to teach their children about that country on a particular day. They're going to cook the meals and the recipes from that country on that particular day. So they're going to use this as a bit of an educational tool. It's going to keep their minds fresh. They're going to have some fun with it because, you know, even in the most dire times we're in now, we need to make sure that we're engaging people and having a little bit of fun. It's a different kind of fun. Jennifer tried injecting a little bit of humor earlier. Sometimes we think it's difficult to inject humor today, but it's still very important. And you know, I end all of my talks with everybody is wash your hands. And I don't know if you've seen the great ways that we can do it. You can do it while you're singing The Rotary song or reciting the 4-way test, the timing works out perfect. But let's have some fun. So great to see everybody, and I'll get off now so that others can have a moment.
Thanks very much. So just a couple of questions that are coming into me through chat. And, you know, I didn't talk about this before during my reflection, but something that has been on my mind is with clubs not meeting and perhaps people being in a bit of hard times, how do we make sure that our foundation giving is where it is, because that will affect all of us in the form of DDF and other things in the future. And Jennifer, since we have you on the line as a trustee of the foundation, is that something that you guys are talking about? Also, deadlines for district block grants. How is all of that going to take place right now? And how can we make sure that we end the year on a really good note as it pertains to the foundation?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sue. I actually had a lengthy conversation with our vice chair of the trustees yesterday, Ken Schubert, and there are 3 items that were sent to the executive committee of the trustees yesterday or 2 mornings ago for vote, and we should be hearing the results of these soon. I can't tell you the details of them, but what I can tell you is the essence of it, and essentially lifting some of the barriers for grants, particularly district grants, to make us a little bit more flexible in how we're able to respond in real time. We're going to need to be able to respond in real time. In terms of what you said about fundraising and the important need for it, you know, certainly one of the things that we see right now is the generosity of people, not only of spirit, but of their resources as well. And I do believe that we're going to see Rotary be a conduit for this. We have said that we're not in the disaster relief business. However, this is a different kind of history that we're living right now, and we all know that. And we need to be able to respond to that. And I think we're going to see something in real quick time that allows us to do this. One last comment, and I'll throw it back to you. One of the things that came out this week was a letter from the WHO by Dr. Tedros. And one of the things he was talking about was the moral imperative, as it was called, that we continue polio eradication. And one of the things that really just made me, I don't know, it galvanized, I think, my resolve. And I think that for those of you who are hearing this, our public health infrastructure, which we have in place around the world, particularly in the endemic countries and those who are near to them, it is helping to shut COVID down. The public health workers, the thousands of them that are on the front lines in the polio eradication efforts, are splitting their time on COVID right now, and it's making a difference. And so if we ever questioned the necessity for us to eradicate polio, and the benefits of what that has provided to our globe, this public health infrastructure is one of the biggest gifts that we have been able to provide to our world. And so we're gonna get through COVID. We're gonna find ways to resolve it. We're also going to eradicate polio. And I think COVID right now proves and showcases more than ever the intense nature that we need to cross the finish line together on that as well. So I just wanted to share that because I thought it was fascinating.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. So at this time, I want to open up the floor to see if anybody has any questions. And just so I saw a couple of people with their iPhones like taping some of the talks that were being given. We're actually recording this meeting, and we will post it on District 6400's Facebook page so that you can refer to it if you would like to. So any questions, or anybody want to bring anything up to any of our speakers today?
While we're waiting for those, if anybody wants to join our Passport Club group on Facebook, if you just search for 6400 Passport or Rotary 6400 Passport, you'll find the group, and you can join us, and then we just approve everybody for membership so we can leave the spammers out of it. But if you join our Facebook group, then you'll definitely get notified of upcoming meetings. We're planning to go to weekly meetings for the near future anyway, throughout this, so that we can keep people updated with what's going on. So I'm sorry, anybody who has any questions that they'd like to ask or any comments that they'd like to make, we appreciate this open forum and the comments that everybody was making. Rajan, what did you have?
Yeah, so I just wanted to remind everybody that tomorrow is World Water Day. So for all of us that have been happily washing our hands furiously over the last few days, we should be grateful that we actually have clean water with which to wash our hands. And I've just got some reports through Shelterbox actually about refugee camps around the world where they don't have clean water, so they're not able to wash their hands, and they're terrified about how quickly this virus will spread amongst them.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very important. Tom Gump, just put something in the chat. Tom, are you available to unmute yourself and kind of tell us what a little bit about your experience with the two activities that you had?
Absolutely. Last night we participated in some very fun connecting activities that are easy to do and can be repeated. Our neighborhood, the block that I live on, all decided that at 5:00 p.m. we would stand outside our front porch and we would toast each other. And we all did that, and it was very fun. And then our young professional group is having different virtual games online. And last night was Monopoly, and anybody could call in and there's chat on the side like we're doing right now. And it just, you felt like you were still spending time with your Rotarians, just in a different way. And I appreciate Sue and Bruce and all of you putting this together and all the professional opinions today. It's just been wonderful.
Thank you. Well, how do you play virtual Monopoly, Tom, for those of us who are I mean, I seem to, somewhat of my competitive spirit has gone away the last week or so, but I want to get it back, so.
You know, it just directs you what to do. So it'll give you a prompt that says roll dice, and then it'll tell you what happened.
What venue do you play it on? What platform?
It's a platform that was not called Monopoly, but something similar. And it had different it had all modern day brands as opposed to the old Monopoly brands. So they would have Bing and they would have Google and those kind of things. So it was an updated version of Monopoly. So,
No Baltic Avenue.
no Baltic Avenue. You had Bing instead. So.
Thanks,
Well,
Tom.
you can always take to coloring. It was very relaxing.
She says that because she did so much coloring. The rest of us didn't have that. All right, I'll throw it open to the floor open to anybody. District Governor John, what would you like to add?
I think we should really say thank you to especially the two professional participants, the two doctors. And again, I think we need to remember that they're on the front line as other first responders, nurses, doctors, and so forth. And they, as we have known, are now also getting the contact with that virus and succumb to that virus. So kudos to them. I hope whatever country it is, we get all this equipment and all that stuff resolved and issued out so we have more protection for people. Because I know how that goes. And it's just phenomenal on what people have done. But I think we have to also be careful that we don't put ourselves in harm's way. So whatever we do, we have to balance that with what may be out there. So,
Thanks,
but kudos to all these folks.
I agree with you.
Absolutely. There's somebody else who's on an iPad who I think wants to say something.
Oh, that's probably me. Can you hear me? This is George Stewart in Orlando, Florida. My one daughter is in London and another daughter lives in Toronto. And the daughter in London had a birthday yesterday, and we had a virtual birthday party using Zoom and had 25 people from across the US and Canada and some in London. It was great fun, and that's why I tuned into this to see how this would work with the Rotary. But try that, folks. It's great fun. Thanks for what you're doing.
That's
Thanks,
awesome.
George. That's great.
Awesome, awesome.
And we thought you had Holger with you behind you there. Sue was about to say hi to him. So.
Well, he's a very close friend. He was at our pets meeting last, seems like ancient now, but about 2 weeks ago. And I got a picture with him. So he's not on here, but he's on here in spirit, I'm sure.
That's awesome. I'm sure Holger would be thrilled to see that picture, and I know he would be proud of all of us for trying to remain connected. If there is nothing else, I want to just, first of all, thank everybody who joined us on the call. Special thanks to Jennifer, Nick, Rajan, and other people who chimed in today for their time and for helping to lift us all up in spirit. And, you know, it is not going to be easy the next few weeks, but we're all strong, smart people. I really believe that deep inside. Emotions will happen, especially for people like me. But at the same token, level-headedness and being courteous to others and trying to be helpful, and at the same time being smart in our communities is what's going to make all of this get better. So thank you again to everyone for joining us. We plan on going to weekly meetings because we do feel like being connected is very important. And if anybody has any topics or speaker ideas, if you would message Bruce or I about that, we'll be sure to try to set it up for next week. Abimbola, did you have something to say?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that our president has been pondering on the use of chloroquine for this virus. And I come from Africa. Chloroquine is a very tolerant medication. It's used for malaria. I've done a lot of research on it and how it could help with the COVID. And quite frankly, this time President Trump could be right because his argument is there is nothing to lose. The medication is very tolerant to the body, has not too stringent side effects. And I was just wondering how we could motivate these people to at least try. If someone's at the point of dying and there's something that can remedy it, why would they just let him die and say, okay, we haven't done the due diligence on this medication, it's a test tube test, and not try that out instead of just losing the life without a last option. So I'm really concerned about the media and, you know, the antagonizing the president. His point is valid. We have nothing to lose if we try this medication. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, it's nothing to lose.
Thank you, Abimbola. Nick, did you want to address that?
Sure. Am I unmuted? Yep. Yeah, I think Abimbola, you make an excellent point, and I particularly agree with you that both of these medications are rather benign, and overall their side effects are very limited and they're very safe, and they've been around for many, many years, and hundreds of thousands of people have taken them with very minimal side effects. So I think it really is the physician's option whether they want to use these or not. And myself in particular, I would have no problem doing that for the same reason that Abimbola stated. We really have nothing to lose, even if we're using them off-label, and especially if someone elderly comes down with the disease, because those are the folks that are really at risk of having serious pulmonary disease and at risk of death. And I think we will probably have a shortage of medications. We already have a shortage of medications even before COVID-19 hit in North America. So my own personal opinion, for me, I would probably save these medications for those at high risk, because the younger folks are going to get over this and have mild disease as a general rule. And I think if we had an abundance and unlimited supply, then you might say, well, treat everyone. But I don't think that's going to be the case. So personally, that's going to be my philosophy. And going forward, I think if people are educated about these medications and keep an eye on the clinical trials, many physicians probably don't even know that these drugs are probably useful. So I think sometimes you need to advocate for yourself or your loved ones as well when you're talking to your physician if someone comes down with COVID-19.
Yeah, I just say that the hydroxychloroquine especially has already been used in hospitals in Los Angeles and seemingly with success. But again, we don't know if there were other factors and these people would have recovered anyway. I'd caution about them because we don't know the dose. We know the dose that works in malaria. We don't know the dose that works, if at all it works, in COVID-19. And the other thing, like Nick said, is we only want to use it in people that actually have the disease, not people who have the sniffles and a cough and then think, oh, I've got COVID and I'm going to start taking hydroxychloroquine now, because there is a fairly narrow therapeutic window, as we say in medicine. So that means that the difference between a therapeutic dose and a potentially toxic dose is fairly narrow. So you can't just, there was a case in China where somebody ordered hydroxychloroquine over the internet and overdosed on it because it's also body weight dependent. So there are certain things that we need to be cautious. I don't think I want to start putting chloroquine in the public water supply yet, but it is promising.
Thank you. Yeah, I think everybody's trying to feel their way through it. We've got a combination of medicine and politics and a lot of other things at play. Fear is kind of guiding a lot of people, and I know that the medical professionals at the end of the day are the ones that I trust the most to try and help us navigate through this, not the political leaders. I think you know, they have to save us in other ways, hopefully. But with that, I want to thank everyone who participated today. Our special speakers, Jennifer Jones, Nick Krasic, and Rajan Chetty. Thank you so much for contributing your time and expertise to be with us. With that, I will close our meeting with something that hopefully we all can keep in the front of our minds over the next several weeks and months, perhaps, as we grapple with this, the four-way test of the things that we think, say, or do. And let me just unmute everybody here. Or just, because you can all unmute.
Just 1 second, please.
Okay, everybody mute. This is the truth. Will it build?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great week. We'll be back here next week.
Interesting